morning. I'm Charles Osgood, and this is Sunday Morning. Whenever we hear a story about corporate chicanery, a nagging question comes to mind. Is this simply another instance of a bad apple, or is it a case of business as usual? Not an easy question to answer, as Martha Teichner will report in our cover story.
I was the biggest liar in North America, maybe in the world.
So why would MBA students, CPAs, and lawyers pay good money to hear him talk about business ethics?
See, I don't have to be smarter than you to manipulate you. I only have to be smarter than you think I am.
What better way to learn about corporate fraud than to go talk to a corporate crook?
Let's just face it, if everybody behaved ethically, you wouldn't be talking to me.
This Sunday morning, that's exactly what we do.
But first, the headline. Is corporate wrongdoing simply business as usual, or is it the rare exception to the rule? As Martha Teichner is about to demonstrate, answering that question is no simple matter.
Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth?
Andrew Fastow.
And nothing but the truth.
During my time at Enron, I was immensely proud of what we accomplished.
Jeffrey Skilling.
I have, however, been instructed by my counsel not to testify.
Kenneth Lay. Forever, their names will be synonymous with the colossal crash of Enron. Remember David Duncan of Arthur Andersen?
Mr. Duncan, Enron robbed the bank. Arthur Andersen provided the getaway car, and they say you were at the wheel.
I must respectfully decline to answer the questions of this committee.
Then there's Bernie Evers and Scott Sullivan of WorldCom. The Regas family of Adelphia.
Members of the Regas family systematically looted the corporation through a wide variety of, quite frankly, brazen thefts.
Add to the role of dishonor Dennis Kozlowski of Tyco.
I wish to assert my constitutional rights.
Sam Waxel of Imclone.
Martha, is there any plea bargain you would
and his friend Martha Stewart.
I think this will all be resolved in the very near future, and I will be exonerated.
In the eyes of the public, at least, our little who's who has come to stand for the most astonishing white-collar crime wave in American history. The resulting losses, staggering, in billions of dollars, in thousands of jobs, in trust.
You put your trust in them and you put your money in it, and then you lose it.
White-collar guys always have to say, I'm not a criminal.
Meet Mark Morze.
And there's always this belief that I'm just doing it this one time, and my motives are so pure. I don't want this company to fall apart. I don't want these people to lose their jobs. One of the best ways to make sure white-collar crimes don't happen...
If you ever wondered about the psychology of the white-collar criminal, Morze is your man.
If you want to build a better hen house, ask a fox.
This guy spent 5 years in federal prison for criminal fraud. He lost everything he had.
Let's just face it, if everybody behaved ethically, you wouldn't be talking to me now.
Now he teaches ethics at the Graziadio School of Business at California's Pepperdine University.
You have to learn tools that can find fraud today.
He also lectures to CPAs and lawyers all over the country. Herein lies a cautionary tale that begins with complacency.
And not one person ever asked me, how do you make those profits? Why do you use cashier's checks? Why can't we see an original source document? No one ever asked. And that's, of course, the biggest irony of the whole thing.
Especially considering how outrageous the story of the ZZZZ Best carpet cleaning fraud was. The company was started in 1981 by a 15-year-old whiz-kid entrepreneur named Barry Minko. Yes, 15. In his parents' garage.
Z-Best.
It was a pretty good business.
I'm Barry Minko, president of Z-Best Carpet Cleaning.
Ads on TV, trucks all over Southern California.
Don't worry, I can handle my people. Don't worry.
But by the time he was 19, Barry Minko wanted to be the king of carpet cleaning. So he hired Mark Morze to raise the cash he needed to take the company public. What Morze pitched to investors was a 50% profit.
That was like giving away $100 bills. People said, can I give you more? You only want $1.5 million? Can I give you $5 million?
Mark Morze was getting a 10% commission. So soon, the kid who grew up poor was living large.
And you paid cash for this house?
Yes.
Buying houses.
Well, I think it had about 7 or 8 bedrooms.
At one point, Morze says he had 5 cars.
I had a Rolls Royce, which to me was the definition of somebody who's made it. I had a Porsche Turbo, I had a Jaguar V12. I had a couple of Mercedes.
All that money was supposedly coming from huge multi-million-dollar repair and restoration projects to office buildings. The only trouble, they were all fake. Like this non-existent $7 million project, supposedly requiring 379,000 square yards of carpet.
We could have carpeted the floors, the ceilings, the walls, and the entire outside of the building and not use up that carpet. But no one ever asked.
At his seminars now, Morze shows samples of the bogus paperwork he manufactured to make the jobs look real.
If I didn't do that, our public offering wouldn't happen. And if our public offering didn't happen, I would not get about $2.5 million in cash and about $4 million in stock. Simple truth was, I was greedy, and I certainly didn't see it as stealing.
It is only through real reform that investor confidence will be restored.
20 years later, New York Attorney General Eliot Spitzer is going after a new generation of white-collar criminals.
These are people who are stealing money that should be used for a pension, for retirement. They may not do it with a gun, but the result is just as invidious and just as criminal.
Last year, Time magazine named him Crusader of the Year. Nobody else was willing to take on the big brokerage houses. Spitzer managed to nail them with whopping fines in the hundreds of millions of dollars for publicly promoting stocks they privately knew were money losers.
Over time, regulators who are supposed to examine an industry sort of fall into a sense of complacency, especially during a decade like the 90s when everybody's making so much money. Nobody wants to rock the boat.
After the economy imploded and the stock market tanked and fraud of all sorts was exposed in the mire left behind when the sea of 90s cash drained away, you'd think that corporate America would be wallowing in shame and regulators at all levels would be knocking themselves out to rebuild trust. Not so, says Eliot Spitzer.
I wish there was greater contrition. I wish that people stood up and said, you know what, we've learned, we do feel ashamed, and therefore we're going to change our behavior. There hasn't been enough of that.
No sooner had he gone after the big investment houses than they went to Washington, and Spitzer says effectively wrote a bill currently making its way through Congress, called the Securities Fraud Deterrence Act.
Well, there's some parts of the bill that are very good.
But it includes an amendment
that would wipe away the power of state prosecutors to go after securities fraud. This is an amendment that the securities industry has been pushing for years.
Why?
Because they don't want us chasing them. It's very simple.
Still, after Enron, Congress forced more accountability on corporate America. It passed the Sarbanes-Oxley Act. Now, CEOs and CFOs have to personally swear that their company's financial statements are true or risk going to jail. The law imposes stiffer fines and doubles prison terms for white-collar criminals. It also protects whistleblowers, like Enron's Sharon Watkins. And it forces auditors to do more than make sure the numbers add up. William Paroli is president of the Rhode Island Society of Certified Public Accountants.
We've had situations where clients have pulled apart our financial statement and attempted to revise it.
He's had to outsmart clients trying to tamper with his audits.
Well, we've always tried to have our stationery be unique. It's one way that we ensure, again, that it came from us.
But to put the burden on accountants to find fraud, Paroli thinks is wrong.
How do we get around crooks in the boardroom? That can't be the job. That would be an impossible task. If you're an auditor in the auditing business and the standard becomes you go out and you find fraud, and then you put the stamp on it that says there's no fraud, who would take that job?
No auditor's going to take that on.
I don't believe that anyone would accept that engagement.
So, as an ordinary American who is not an accountant, I'm supposed to sit here and say fraud is inevitable?
Of course fraud is inevitable. It's just at what percentage, what rate. What you want to do is you want to minimize it.
Mark Morze remembers the deterrent effect Lompoc Prison had on him.
Prison, bad place. Don't go there.
When he was sentenced, the judge told him, it's a bad time to be a white-collar criminal. Morze says right now is also a bad time. He predicts that some of those executives in the headlines will go to prison for a long time to learn the lesson he learned the hard way.
I brought a great deal of pain to people, and I sat there and looked and said, I got an 8-year sentence. I served 5 of it, and I think I deserved every minute that I was there. And I wished I had thought about it beforehand. I wished I had heard somebody like me before, but I didn't.